and welcome to Campaign Chronicles. With just 22 weeks to go until the first round of voting in the French presidential election, this is France 24's regular update on just what's happening. Coming up in today's programme, what's a little fallout between friends? Negotiations between the Greens and the Socialists verge on meltdown. François Hollande loses his golden touch while the president is back on form. And France 24's Faces and Places books in for a medical checkup in France Provence. We'll begin this roundup of the week's news as egos are massaged at the Socialist Party and ruling Conservatives find their online campaign is already behind schedule.
Keep your friends close and your enemies closer. That's the lesson from the newly unveiled Socialist campaign team. The big challenge for candidate François Hollande, ensuring all the different party factions are satisfied. A delicate balance that saw some key posts given to allies of his erstwhile rivals. Hollande did reserve, though, the most strategic posts for his loyalists, leaving nothing to chance. Even though the election is still some way off, the ruling UMP party is tightening the pressure on its centrist allies. It's delivered an ultimatum to MPs from the New Centre Party: support Nicolas Sarkozy or face stiff competition to keep their seats. That's bad news and food for thought for the party boss, Hervé Morin. He was supposed to announce his candidacy later this month. Far-right candidate Marine Le Pen continues to revel in her role as outsider. If she's beaten in the presidential vote, she has a fallback plan: win the party its first ever seat in parliament. That in her stronghold in the north of France. Le Pen's strategy also includes playing hard to get. She refused a televised debate this week after declaring she deserved more high-profile adversaries than those on offer. A sign of the times. Far-left candidate Jean-Luc Mélenchon launched his web campaign. Better known for his quick temper and his radical positions, the campaign will rely on his personality. He's going to be the star of a regular web series. That ambitious start contrasts with other parties. Some anonymous web users have already bought up strategic domain names, leaving a surprise for whoever clicks on Nicolas Sarkozy 2012.fr.
Now to a key campaign issue in the upcoming vote, nuclear power. Over 50 years ago, France gambled on the atomic option. That's because it doesn't have any oil or gas of its own. Thanks to the long time frame and huge investment involved, reducing that reliance is now problematic. And it's at the heart of talks between socialists and the Greens about what they'll do if they do win next year's election.
For these environmentalists outside Socialist Party HQ, the future of French nuclear power is too important to be a simple bargaining chip.
We're here to tell the Socialist Party and François Hollande that there's no such thing as safe nuclear power, next generation or otherwise.
While the protest was short-lived, nuclear power is already at the heart of the presidential campaign, 6 months before the election itself. It's dominated negotiations over a non-aggression pact between the Socialist Party and the Greens. Their eventual agreement, including reducing nuclear dependence by 50%, papering over clear differences of opinion.
This agreement shows the basics. We're united for the basics, but we're not interchangeable. We diverge on some points, and we recognize that.
It's a special agreement that points out what we agree on and what we disagree on.
A special agreement, then, or simply agreeing to disagree on the most contentious issue. That specifically is this new third-generation nuclear reactor in the north of France. Behind schedule and over budget, it's become a symbol for both sides. The Greens want to put it out of its misery despite the almost €5 billion already invested. And if the Socialists are willing to close 24 reactors nationwide, that doesn't include this one, and for some, that's telling.
It's brand new, and it'll last at least 40 years. It's not credible to say you're ready to stop nuclear power and then build this plant. It's credible, but it demonstrates that they don't really want to stop nuclear power. The socialists still aren't convinced they have to give up nuclear power.
The reason for that hesitation is simple. Love it or loathe it, nuclear power is key to the French economy. After decades of investment, it represents 3/4 of France's power supply, helps keep fuel bills down, and employs over 100,000 people. Even the Greens admit it is one of the few industries where the French are world beaters. And that means the ruling UMP is scathing about any plans to trade seats in Parliament against France's energy independence.
This will do great damage to French industry. I won't allow France's advantage here to be just sold off.
For one side, then, it's about selling off the family jewels. For the other, preventing a future nuclear catastrophe. Two polar opposites, and whoever does win in 2012 will have to tread a fine line between the two.
Well, I'm joined now by France 24's reporter for the show, Luke Brown, here in the studio. Hello to you. That story is already having far-reaching effect on the web.
It is very much so. Basically, one bit of noise that we are getting from the Twitter sphere, the Twitter community is basically noting that Eva Joly, the candidate from the Greens, basically, she seems to have gone AWOL ever since that deal was inked earlier in the week. As we can see, one of a tweet from a UMP, a Conservative mayor in the south of the country, said basically she's running away from her responsibilities because, frankly, her ideas are not credible. The reason that she's running away is that she cancelled at the very last minute a televised debate this week. She said she didn't want to add confusion to the confusion, but we are getting the impression that, well, perhaps she's not that happy with the deal as it is, and she may not even go all the way through with her campaign.
So we've seen why the nuclear industry is so important, and it's also proving a bit of a headache for socialist François Hollande.
Very much so. We almost got a worst-case scenario for everybody involved. It's because the whole deal almost collapsed earlier this week. This after François Hollande basically he intervened. He deleted a paragraph, a contentious paragraph from the deal after it was signed. That's pretty bad behaviour, and that was after, even worse, after lobbying from nuclear industrialists. This, of course, leaves quite a lot of room for criticism from the right. They said, would he do the same if he were in negotiations with Angela Merkel? And this does reinforce his reputation as a ditherer.
Well, undoubtedly that dominated his week, especially in a week that he was supposed to be fighting back.
You're quite right. He was supposed to be fighting back. He was supposed to be launching his campaign team this week. He did that, completely overshadowed by that affair, as well as a whole host of criticism that he was caught in a crossfire of, really. From the right, the government minister Luc Châtel, he compared him to Barbar the elephant. From my childhood, I remember him as being nice and jolly, but not necessarily very serious, as you can see there. Not going to be the person to lead the government for them, they would say. The left of the left, Jean-Luc Mélenchon, the opposite side, you would expect him to be a bit kinder to another left-wing candidate. He, however, he called him a captain of a pedalo, not the person you want to trust while you're in these turbulent economic times. So with friends like that, who really needs enemies?
And enemy number one is, of course, Nicolas Sarkozy, the current president. He's possibly going to be fighting back, and he has been making his comeback. His
comeback, yes. François Hollande could only really be losing because of his poll figures. They were so impressive just a couple of months ago. But as you can see from this rather right-wing weekly newspaper, Le Point, Sarkozy era 2, the incredible comeback has already begun. It's perhaps a little bit hyperbolic. His poll figures are getting a bit better, but only by a couple of points in the past couple of months. Perhaps not worth getting carried away yet. François Hollande, he's still got a lead of about 7 points, but this is part, perhaps, of the president's strategy, basically slowly chipping away at the lead and his credibility of Hollande. He says, basically, this is, of course, important that Nicolas Sarkozy is not yet campaigning until next year. If every month he catches up a couple of points, by that point is likely to be level pegging, and then the battle is his to win.
Certainly is. Thank you very much indeed, Luke Brown. Well, it's time now for Faces and Places, our weekly rendezvous with some of France's 44 million registered voters. In this edition, it's France's health system that we're going to be looking at. Our guide is an increasing rarity, a country doctor.
Alors, Madame Sauvage. Bonjour Madame. Voilà, je suis avec Anne-Claire qui est en stage.
It's a long day for Michel. This GP will see up to 40 patients and won't be home before 9:30 p.m. But Michel doesn't care, as he's passionate about his work.
I believe that access to healthcare is a necessity of life. You can't do anything if you're not in good health. The World Health Organization even says that.
Doctors are scarce in this area of Burgundy where Michel practices. That's why 6 years ago he created this medical centre. Its staff of 15 includes everything from GPs to specialists and physical therapists. The aim is to offer a better class of treatment.
I'm very happy because every morning I go to work with a happy heart, knowing that I'll be able to treat all the different health problems my patients have. I'm also glad that our patients have made this centre theirs. It really is their centre.
In the waiting room, patients talk about how grateful they are.
There really is a problem, that's for sure. A lack of doctors in the countryside and here. It's the same. That's why this centre is so good, since it includes specialists and others as well.
Every day, Michel spends a few hours making house calls.
Alors, jeune homme, ça va?
House calls, Michel insists, are a necessity.
We're in their home. We see how they live, what's on their table, their family photos. Being a doctor means treating a health problem, so treating an organ in your body, in your environment. Here we get to see their environment.
Then Michel takes to the road again, and when asked what should be the first priority for a new president, his answer is loud and clear: healthcare.
It would be much more interesting if the health system wasn't centered on hospitals anymore, but on the patient and primary healthcare teams, so as to provide global care for the community, to assist in prevention and to promote healthy living.
About Michel, we could have also said that he's a married man, a father of 5 kids, and enjoys pottery. But he didn't have time to talk about all of this. He had to go and see another patient.
Well, that's all for this week from Campaign Chronicles. Don't forget to check out the show's Facebook page and tell us what you think. We'll see you next time. Bye-bye.